Hello, this is Dr. Joey Lloyd, and we have been talking about Luke chapter 21, where is recorded the words of Jesus when he gave his last temple discourse. That's the only place this is recorded. So we are going to look at it and have been in some detail because the part that we just covered was the characteristics of the apostolic age. And then a surprise at the end of that prophecy, which was the coming of a Gentile age. What do you think Jesus said next? In Luke chapter 21, in the verse that culminated what we talked about last week, it was our last time we were together. It says, "And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations," speaking of Jerusalem, or the children of Israel who lived in Jerusalem and in Israel altogether, if you include the fall of Masada in AD 72. "And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles." After they're killed or carried away captive, then Jerusalem would be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Now that was something that the apostles had never heard of, the times of the Gentiles. And what he said next jumps ahead 2,000 years. Now all of the Gentile age, or what he talked about up into the verse we read, has all been fulfilled. It's all in the past, or at least the Gentile age is at the end of the Gentile age. The verse 24 leads us up to the end of the Gentile age. But what happens next after Jerusalem quits being trodden down of the Gentiles, which would appear to be 1967? Well, he says in verse 25, "And there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations." Now, is that not what he said about the time before the end of the apostolic age? Well, it's pretty much the same, but it's after the end, or at the end of the Gentile age, not just at the end of the apostolic age. This is new. This has not been fulfilled yet. And so the earth, there should be distress of nations and perplexity, and the sea and waves roaring. Now, if we see things like that going on, we better kind of think, well, maybe the end of the Gentile age is upon us, or the 70th week of Daniel is soon. Well, let's go on and see what he says. "And men's heart failing them for fear, and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken. And then shall they see the Son of Man coming." Now here's the second thing that he surprised them with. "And then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory." They did not expect to have to wait for a second coming, especially after a Gentile age. And so now the second coming is something new to them. And they're, by the way, they're still in the temple there, and they're talking about those things, and this is piquing their curiosity. And so he says, "And when these things begin to come to pass," and when these things begin to come to pass, these what things? The things about the second coming of Jesus. "Then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh." What in the world does that mean, the redemption draweth nigh? As we look at the redemption means to deliver by paying the price. Deliver is another word for save, to save by paying the price. So Jesus saved us by paying what price? In Romans, we see our problem here. In Romans chapter 3, verse 23, "For all have sinned and come short of the glory of God." So we have come short of the perfection it takes to get to heaven and being in the presence of his glory, and because of our sin. So what did we do about it? Nothing. We can't do a thing about that. We have sinned, and the payment for sin is eternal separation from God in the lake of fire, and so we can't pay for our sin. But Jesus did something. He said, "Being justified," talking about us, that we not are in the process of being justified. He's talking about that we have been justified, and now we remain constantly in a state of justification. Justified is a legal term, as we've said before, speaking that in the courtroom, the judge will say at the end, if the man, his fine has been satisfied, propitiated, if the judge has been satisfied, then he would bring down his gavel and say, not guilty, or you're justified.